So, welcome to our lockdown chat series, where today we are talking about juggling work with children through lockdown. And we're talking about children who are in full care at home and also children who are doing schoolwork. First up, let's do a quick introduction. So I'm joined by the wonderful Kirsten from Talking Tree Hill, and I had the privilege of heading up to Waiheke earlier this year actually, and helping her with some of the teachers that she works with, and it was a fantastic collaboration. So thanks for that, Kirsten, but I'll hand over to you to do a brief intro of you.
Awesome, thanks Celia. So I'm Kirsten and I'm from Talking Tree Hill, and I've been a teacher for about 20 plus years, I'm saying, and I'm a mum of two, and I started Talking Tree Hill about 2 or 3 years ago, and Talking Tree Hill is an outdoor educational facility on Waiheke Island, and we're really focusing on nature education, te ao Māori, the arts, basically getting children spending 90% of their time outside, innovating and creating, and really looking after that inner voice and creating or maintaining that authentic voice. So I'm just going to do a short intro. That's me as a working mum. So I'm in the same situation as everyone else out there at the moment, is that I'm trying to get things done while the kids are here. So this is an important topic for me too.
Yeah, totally. And it's quite a big topic in a way, because it's especially come to a head this week, I think, with children starting back to school on Wednesday, wasn't it? So that's definitely put stress levels up a bit. And we chatted actually on Friday just to kind of get a feel of how we wanted this session to flow. And we're going to kick off first with expectations, because that was one of the key kind of areas that came up for us as an initial starting point that we need to think about. And I perhaps think that it might be something that some people haven't talked to their colleagues or their boss or their family about. And you had some really good thoughts about this. So Kirsten, do you want to kick us off with expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. I had some good thoughts about this because it's relevant to me, and my expectations of myself are high. So I have needed to lower those a lot. Now, I'm my own boss, which is a unique situation, but it also comes with a lot of issues, because when you are your own boss, you're having to choose how to do your day, but you also have the expectations of your children and everyone else around you. The one thing I don't have, and which is tricky, I know, for a lot of my friends, is your boss's expectations, and really figuring out what those are, having those really honest conversations. So not only if you're a boss of yourself, you're having that honest conversation with yourself, going, okay, well, what is it that I really need to do at this point? But asking your boss or asking your colleagues, what are the expectations? Don't assume. That was my big thing of talking to friends as well, is don't assume. You can't be as productive as you were. And I know for my lawyer friends, that's really tricky at the moment, because they have got a lot of work on. But what are those expectations that your boss really has and your colleagues actually have? And, you know, Celia and I spoke about like writing a list, halving it, and then halving it again, of what you actually can output when you have got all your whānau at home, because it's massive. Celia, what did you have to say about that?
Well, I was just thinking, when you're saying about your boss's expectations, I was talking to my husband about this, because he's back in full time, working from home, which is kind of normal for us anyway. But the first few days, it felt like the employer was quite relaxed. But then after a few days of being in lockdown and giving time, people time to get ready, then he felt like the expectations were business as usual. And I kind of challenged him on that. I said, well, is business as usual when you now have 2 children at home? And for me, it felt like I was expected to drop my work and support the children and take on that role while he got to do his full-time role. So there's multiple discussions there, isn't there? There's having the confidence to be able to go to your employer and say, right, what are your expectations while I am at home? Now, you knowing that I have children here, what are you expecting from me? What is that minimum? I think you used that term the other day. What's the minimum expectation you have, and aiming for that? as much as, I'm sure we're all productive people, but trying to aim to really exceed in this time, I think that's going to create a lot of stress.
And I think the key question that we spoke about as well is, how do you set yourself up to do your best work? So when you've got that kind of minimum expectation, how do you then set yourself up so you can actually do it? What is it you need to do for yourself to meet your own expectations? For Celia and I this morning, so that we could get to come to this, we didn't both know, but we both went for a run. I've put washing on, so I know that's done. I've stewed some apples. I've done these things that I can take this time. And that's meeting my own expectations, not my family expectations, but putting those things in to go, okay, so I've done that, yeah, right. I'm going to spend an hour now with you all discussing this wonderful topic because it's such an important topic. But having those clear kind of self-care expectations and expectations of actually, and we're going to move into the flow of the day, about how you set yourself up to do your best work. And then when you're asking yourself that, what is your expectation of your family? And what is their expectation of you? Because it's very different now. We're in a totally different way of working. We haven't been in this in our generation ever before. So everything is different. And it's really important to remember that when it's all turning to custard, that's okay. So that expectation, again, is that minimum that we were speaking about.
And not assuming. I think there's some assumptions. So back to my husband and I, his assumption was that his employer was expecting him to be, 40 hours a week, and that was the time, etc., that he was able to give. But actually, if he'd talked to her, I wonder if that would have been different. So I think it's actually having these conversations. I'd love to know in the comments, have you had a conversation with your employer and actually asked them, what are your expectations of me at this time? But have you also sat down and thought about what are your own expectations of yourself? Have you lowered them, your own expectations of yourself, but also your expectations of your children and how they're going to behave and how they're going to cope? Because, there is going to be some challenges in there. I know a few friends are finding that children are really pushing their boundaries while being in this kind of environment. And I'm finding that at our house, my son is really pushing the boundaries and he's doing things, even when we said, no, you're not able to do that, and he will do it. And it's, really pushing us, and it's, trying to keep calm. So it's like, okay, what are our expectations? My expectation is that my son's going to push the boundaries, and that I'm going to deal with that calmly.
And the awareness that expectation can change on a daily or weekly basis. So go back to it.
Yes.
There's a lot of reflection in this time. This is a real time of reflection. So making sure that you go back and go, well, that expectation that can't work. That's not actually working for our whānau now. So go back and reevaluate and checking in with the family. Checking in, okay, is this working? This isn't working. What does and what doesn't? And because you can get into a real sense of, and I did this the other week ago, I've set we've made this, we've all agreed on this expectation, it hasn't happened, then I feel like I've failed, and then I'm feeling bad about myself, or, whatever those things, and that's no good. You can't let that in. So it's always kind of going back and just doing a little bit of reflection and going, okay, this is working, this isn't working, and then changing it up where you need to.
Yeah.
The whole world's changing. We just need to change our thoughts and our feelings about how we move forward. So that's important.
Yeah, brilliant. Great point. And I guess if we were to sum up this kind of section, kind of key tips would be, talk to your boss, figure out what their expectations of you are. Tell them what you're capable of as well, like, where your challenge points are in the day. Maybe it's that you can do the same amount of work, but it just is going to look different. So have an open conversation about expectations. Set down your own expectations for yourself, and just accept that you're going to have to set some lower expectations of yourself, and that's okay. It's okay to be adaptable and be flexible, and same with your children. Anything else, any other tips from that or summary from that you want to add in there, Kirsten?
No, I think that's clear. And I think it moves in really well to that, then creating the flow of how those expectations can work going into the day. So
fantastic.
That's good.
And it's so that's a bit of reflection. So for people to do, going away from this, thinking about that, and having the confidence to do that as well. Right. flow of the day. And I think this is going to be a bit of a challenging one. And like with this whole conversation, there is no one way. This is a conversation, and just take what you need and what's going to work for you, or look at it and go, oh, actually we can adapt that. So it's not saying you must do this or anything. It's just having some ideas and going with that. So how does your flow of the day look? That could be a good area to start. You know, how do you manage your day with your children while you're working, Kirsten?
Yeah, so we did a few different things. Like, I've got a board over here that says daily flow for our whānau and keeping ourselves and the planet healthy, because that's our, you know, like our ethos for our family and for Talking Tree Hill at the same time. So, you know, that's been there for a couple of weeks, and we've gone in and out of it. But what we did do for our flow of the day is, like, I did talk to the kids, and I've got children who are age 5 and 12.
Yeah.
So we kind of made up as the idea of the flow of the day is, what does each person in our whānau, what do we need? Okay, so we said we need to have food, we need to feed our animals, we need our own time, we need togetherness time, we need to do work, and we need to do exercise. So that was some of the stuff that the kids came up with us. And then we looked at, like, you know, what does it mean being our family? So when we looked at the flow of the day, we looked at long term, like when we're coming out of Rahu, when we're coming out of lockdown, what is it that we've built as a family in the flow of our day that means that we come out of this and go, wow, that was a really memorable time for the right reasons. So the flow of the day for us is also about work. Both Mark and I are working here at Talking Tree Hill.
Yeah.
But look, to create that flow, it's also about how much focus time you need for work, what the children need and all those things. But what we started with was the why. We started with what's really important for us at this time.
Yeah.
Because the social and emotional health of ourselves and the children, we recognized as being the most important. So in our flow of the day, we made sure that exercise was in there, that good food was in there, that togetherness was in there, that outside time was in there. So those things were our key. What I want to say to you is, what are your non-negotiables in your flow of the day?
Yeah.
You know, so we worked out our non-negotiables and we put those in, and then
Fantastic.
But the flow of the day has to be worked out. If you're working and you've got, you know, some of my friends are needing to do really big chunk of working time, when is it that you can do that best? And Celia, you and I spoke a lot about that. It's like watching and observing your children, knowing when they need you, how you set themselves up to not need you, and like, when is it that you actually get up? When is it that you have to go to bed? You know, all of those things, and you work out your flow of the day in regards to the optimal times that you can actually work. You know, if you're trying to kind of chill away and get stuff done and the kids are doing it, you're not going to be productive. Set yourself up, go, do a bit of exercise or have a cup of tea, whatever it is that you need, and then go, okay, watch your kids, work out when is the best time I can be most productive, I can be most focused, and block it into then, and then organize how the children can do that. And I know, Celia, you had lots of great ideas around setting up the flow of the day with the kids as well, what you've been doing with yours.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's going to look a bit different. Each family is going to look kind of different. So I was just kind of thinking there, one of the things that I've been doing with my kids is making sure I connect with them before I'm going into a chunk of my work time. And that's been really beneficial. Sorry, my screen's just gone funny there. No, I'm back. And that's been really beneficial, because by having that connection, having a bit of playtime down with them on the ground or outside, they then have their bucket kind of full, and I can get a chunk of work in. But I've also identified, as you were saying, what the best times for them are during the day. So I can generally tell when they wake up how they're going to be for the day. But on a good day, I can generally rely on that first period of the day before morning tea, that they are going to be able to stay quite focused in whatever they're doing. And I've got a 4 and 6 year old, so a little bit younger again than one of yours. And one thing I have noticed is that if I shut myself in my office, they come in and out, in and out, in and out. And so that's not working for our family. What I have done is I've set up myself here at the dining table, and I will either set up some crafts at the other end of the table, some Play-Doh, set up the trains on the ground, or get them playing, doing whatever, do a little bit of play, and then when I just see them getting into that zone, I step back and I come and I sit behind my computer and I do my work. So that's one kind of strategy that I've used, is going with that. Some days they have not been ready for that. They've actually needed to go out for some nature time. Maybe they've felt a bit cooped up or what have you. And so first thing in the morning we might head out for a walk just to get some of that pent up energy out, gross motor kind of movement, and then coming back. So that's one thing we've noticed. We've also been tagging in with my husband a bit. So when he has his morning tea kind of thing, he will come out and prepare the children's morning tea and do a bit with them for half an hour, so I can just get a half an hour chunk in there as well. So that kind of gives me a couple of chunks. Same with lunchtime. So I will get the kids do their lunch, organise that, and then my husband will come out and he will take the kids off for a walk for an hour or something, or play with them, and I'll get another chunk in. So, you know, I guess we're in a situation where we're both at home. One thing I would like, maybe you have some thoughts on this, Kirsten, was what about for parents where they've got another, their partner or husband or wife is out working, they're an essential service, or they're a solo parent, you know, I think that's just challenging, really challenging.
It is. It's really challenging. But what you can do is you can work out that triggers that disrupt the flow. So you can work out, like, okay, how can I be better prepared? So if it's food, for example, so, you know, in that circumstance, you've said that, you know, one of you can take that, but perhaps you can't do that. So at the start of the day, you have in your fridge your snacks ready, so that the children, you know that the trigger for disrupting your flow of work is that the kids need food, right? So you get your lunchbox prepared at the start of the day, and that the children can actually go into that lunchbox and they can grab it when they need to grab it, or you've got, you know, like at that level, their level in the fridge, snacks, and healthy snacks as well, you know, so that it's all cut up ready to go. So you've prepped that in the morning, you've told the kids if you're hungry, that's it. It's small things like when you look around, and if you've got younger children and the toilet paper runs out on the toilet, don't let the toilet paper run out, because you're going to have a child that's going to keep shouting. Well, I have one of those that would keep shouting from the toilet, get me the toilet paper, get me the toilet paper. So it's about preparing your environment as well. And physically it can be things like that, just that you've got food ready, that the toilet paper is there, or that you have a space that you create your workspace. And for Celia, that works that it's at your table. For me, I'm in my little cupboard office, and we have a little door policy. So when that door is closed, that's a no-go time, and I won't open it. And if I do open it, you are going to be growled at. Or if I've got it half open, and I know this works well for kind of teenagers and things as well, is that, you know, you can come in. If it's fully open, that's fine. We're in and out, and that's the flow. But work out what the triggers are for your kids that are going to disrupt the flow to the work that you need to get done, and then try and prep that beforehand. So it is about being quite organized with your flow of the day. And when I'm saying organized, I'm also saying being flexible with it. So if that happens, what can you do next time? So again, looking back in that, going, oh, I forgot to get the food ready, or, oh, I didn't get the trains down from the top shelf. So think about, what do they like playing with? What do they need to eat? What do they need? What are their needs? And what are your needs as well? So if you're, you know, oh, I've got this chunk of time at 12 o'clock, I'm hungry then, have your cup of tea there. So you don't want to go back out there because they're all sorted. Make sure you've got yourself prepped, and you've got a bit of food there, and you've got your bits and bobs sorted. So it is at this time about being organized and looking at, how does your physical environment help you best? How do you set it up so that it has play mode and work mode? And also, when are the times when the children are going to be online, perhaps doing schoolwork? Is that a time when you can be on another device doing yours? Do you set up a table like my friends have with 3 computers around if you've got them or whatever, and that this is our work time. So there's lots of ways of managing it. And I think sometimes with the older children, you can manage that in the physical environment quite well. And then working out, well, what happens when those boundaries aren't met? And that's down to your family's values and beliefs as well. So if we're crossing boundaries, what do we do about that? And that's a discussion to have as a family. And that works for solo parents, that works for, if you've got, it works for everyone about that, because that's your ethos of who you are and how you move about your day and what everyone needs. So, when you've got younger children, they can be sleeping, you will have to work then, that is one of those things they always say, sleep when a baby sleeps. Well, probably at this time, that's not going to be working so well if you do need to do work.
And it really links to our last kind of area of discussion, which was expectations, isn't it? So
it does.
If we know what our expectations are from our employer or of ourselves and our family, then that can help us get into a really good flow of the day. One other thing that I've been doing is I've been trying to, the work that's kind of hard, like the thinking type stuff, I have been really trying to do that in the blocks of time where I'm definitely not going to have interruptions. When my husband has given me a chunk, or sometimes the morning play, I know there are going to be interruptions, so I try not to do heavy thinking there. I've split my day up, and I'm working a bit in the evenings as well, just to make sure I get stuff done. But I do know that that's not sustainable for everyone. I also need my own time, so that's only a couple of days a week. But something else I've been doing is emails. I've been taking my laptop outside, and while the kids are playing, they've just been playing in the backyard, and I've just been responding to 1 or 2 emails at a time. And I found that that's really good, because sometimes the children just need to have you near, especially younger children. They just want to know that you're near. You're their connection piece. That you're their safety net. So just having you near can be really helpful, rather than if I'm inside, come in and out, just checking where I am. So that's something to have a think about. Is there something that you could do outside while your children are playing, just to give them a bit of a mix up with how they're playing or where they are, just to help with the emotional challenges as well? Because being outside, we know nature is fantastic for our emotional stability. So if you can be outside and do something, take a phone call, that could be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, it's about finding those pockets of time, isn't it?
Yeah,
really finding those. Yeah, it is, for sure.
Do you want to sum up your tips then? Because I think you had some really good ones as well. Just sum up for people so they can read through our waffle.
Let's read through the waffle. Yeah, I guess it's, again, as you said, linked in from the expectations. Ask yourself what you need and what you need to plan for each day. What creates flow for your family. Work out what the triggers are that disrupt that flow. Observe and reflect and respond on your needs. When can you find those tasty chunks of what I call them, of your most productive time for you? Set your children up so that they can succeed in the activities that they're doing. So that means being organised with their resources. It means organised with their food, organised with what they need in a physical environment around your home. Simple things like that, really. It's about where you find your pockets of time, how you organise yourself, and how you get it going, and then being flexible with it.
Fantastic.
That's basically
Hey, thanks very much for that. And I think some of the things that we touched on in there were the screen time, because I know that a lot of friends are using screens a lot at the moment. And well, I think there are definitely reasons that we should be using screens, or that children need to be using screens. We were talking a bit about, and it's a little bit controversial perhaps from the psychologist's perspective on this. Do you want me to go into this a little bit?
Yeah.
What do you want to start? Yeah, so I was listening to a few different psychologists, and a couple of them are saying, totally just don't worry about the screen time, just let them go for it, and it doesn't matter, it's a short time. And yeah, overall I get that. I think yes, it is a short time and they will be okay. But I think what that perspective doesn't take into consideration is us as parents, and the what we have to deal with that, especially if your children are a bit younger and their emotional regulation is not at a space where they can switch in and out of screens easily. So for example, my children, well, 4 and 6 are still quite young, and it's you notice it when they spend a lot of time on a screen. Their emotional state afterwards is really challenging. And for me, that is actually something that I don't want to have to deal with, because it's just makes it too much harder. Yes, I might get that good chunk of time with them being on the screens, but then the aftermath, it doesn't balance out for me. The risks are too high. It creates real challenges in our day. And so we have been limiting the screen time with our children. We haven't gone into that space of just letting them go for it. That would be really easy to do that, but it would also be extremely hard to deal with the emotions after that. So I think we need to consider that, and that you might find that you are in a space that you do have to use screens, and that's fine. This is not a guilt thing, but it's something that I think we need to make a conscious decision about. And that conscious decision is going, okay, what is the purpose of us putting our children in front of screens? Can there be a purpose with the screens that they are using? I think, actually, I might pass over to you for that, because you had some good thoughts around the whole purpose side of using the screens.
Yeah, well, because we're an outdoor educational facility, the reason why I've looked even more into this is because we were meant to have our holiday program at the end of the second week of what would be the school holidays. So we couldn't obviously do that. So we decided to put our stuff online and create a online holiday program. Now, that's very odd for us. This is not something that we do. We don't have devices and screens here. Yeah. But what I realized is that my children are on devices, and what is the learning that I want them to take away from what they're watching? Yeah. And parents were talking to me about, well, actually the kids, they want to see familiar faces. We want simple activities that the children can either have that sense of student agency about when they are doing it themselves, or it's meeting that family connection time, that whānau connection. So for me with screens, it's about, it's very different for different ages. And I know when you're getting into the teenage years, I've got lots of friends who've said, right, from 3 o'clock, just fill your boots. Okay. Like that's it. You're away, you're talking to friends. And a lot of they've said a lot of them, it's just that they want to talk to their friends. Okay. So that's a really good thing. It's a social, and it's very important for that age bracket, that really is. The bracket I'm talking about is from age sort of 5 to 11, or maybe, from 3 to 5, we don't use screens, but kind of different at this time. But you just have to be really aware of what they're watching. There's a lot of content driven stuff that's not appropriate, and even in any time, and you just need to think about, sure, you're going to use screen, fair enough, but what are you using it for? Can it be a 10-minute segment that is a provocation that then gets that child standing up, moving around, doing something else? Both Celia and I have put videos up, and I've kind of delved into it, and they're hilarious, but they're very simple videos where you can go for a walk, you can get the resources, they can make the stuff up with you, or it might even go into that they keep making them on their own, particularly huts and things like that, where my boys went out and they did that for 2 or 3 hours. Now that was incredible. Fantastic. And we do have the space for that, but it's thinking about, how is that screen making them feel? How are they, what are they taking away from it? Can you look at it and say, okay, this is a great thing, this is creative, this is innovative, and there's so much out there. You really can search now. I know that whole TV show thing's on as well. Maybe that is helpful for you as well. What does your family want to learn from this time? And use screen as a tool to do that. So, maybe it's Te Reo that you need. Maybe there's things that the screen can give you that's not in your set of tools, right? So you go, actually, the kids really want to learn how to cook. That's what my Zaki's doing. So he wants to learn how to cook. Okay, this is what he could watch online and then later on we can help make a meal together. So really using it as a beautiful tool. I mean, I know some people are sitting down and are using that as a focus time. So try and make that really guilt-free for yourself if you can. But why can't that focus time be about a little bit of research by us as the adults, then leaves us guilt-free? We see, okay, well, that's awesome. They're actually learning something from that. Particularly for me, I love the idea that they're using natural resources. You go for a walk in the morning, you collect the things that you need, and then, you know, they make something like a mandala or something at home. So really making those choices around those screens, definitely for the younger children. I just, that's my thing. That is my thing. And I just have to I have to own that. That's something. But, you know, also like we do with our Leo, he's 5. I'll say to him, he can have half an hour on screen where he chooses something within the realm of what we've got. And he feels like that's ownership for him as well. So he's doing that on a weekday. But I really do think screens can be used for a certain purpose, and thinking about that as a tool. They're my 2 takeaways for it. And also remember that all the online school learning, you know, it's online. So, you know, your schools are gifting you that stuff. And, you know, Te Kura, the correspondence school, has been doing this for years. So they're a really good model to look at how to do that really well at the same time. So, you know, I'm with you, Celia. I really do think that we need to be aware that when we come out of this, the dependency on screens is going to and will be an issue. But if you need to, it's okay as well. It's just not having that mama guilt, you know, like make a decision, be that decision for your family, and make sure you're okay with it. That's all we can be as parents, is informed about our choices and make the best ones we can at the time. And we're in a really odd situation at the moment. So I think it's just empowering yourself to do that.
And I think with that, if, you know, your kids are in front of screens for, you know, with a purpose or without a purpose for a period of time, something that you can do straight after that is to get outside and get them playing or running, go for a bike ride. That kind of just releases some of those emotions that come up. You know, screens they elevate our cortisol levels, and you know, they cause a bit of stress inside our body that we might not recognize outside. So it's really important to get them outside so they can stabilize those emotions and regulate themselves. So get them physical straight after a period of screen time, and that's going to be one of the helpful things that you can do to navigate those emotions that come up inevitably.
It's balancing it, isn't it? It's just all of those things are just counterbalance that out, and then it's a much happier little person for it, or big person.
I think we've kind of summarized that kind of section at the end there anyway. And our last we have 2 more kind of mini sections, and we've actually kind of touched on a lot, which is schoolwork. So yes, there is schoolwork coming from teachers, and I'm seeing a lot of stressed parents out there about going, oh my gosh, I don't know what this stuff is, or I don't know how to teach my children, and getting quite worried about that, but also worried about children who are resisting and going, no, I don't want to do that. And I think we just wanted to touch on this briefly. We won't spend too much time on this, but just to say that let the children lead what they want to do. If they want to do schoolwork and they want to sit down and, you know, do everything as is written out or as is guided by their teacher, let them go for it. If they don't, or if they only want to do a little bit, let them choose how they want. And this kind of links into a bit of anxiety, and I'll just briefly touch on this before I hand over to you, Kirsten, if that's all right. So our anxiety levels will rise if we aren't in control of enough of our life, for example. So for a child, if they are feeling anxious and then they're being told that they have to do something, that's not within their own control, they're being told, that can just help raise those anxiety levels a bit. So at this time, you know, it's very temperamental. being able to lower or kind of keep our anxiety levels in check through allowing children to choose how they want to spend their time is going to be beneficial. I don't think I worded that very well, but the sum up is the more that children can be in control of their life, especially at this time, the less likely their anxiety levels will come out of control. And remember, anxiety is good. We all have it. It helps us. It's just when it reaches that tipping point that we're trying to want to minimise. Yeah. Thoughts on that, Kirsten?
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is the time when we can be the most helpful for their children's emotional development. So that's really important. And it's just remembering those things as well, that parents, you are actually the first teachers. You are a teacher. Yes. So whatever it is that you need to be teaching, it's all good. And I know the messages from the schools here on Waiheke are just do what you can. And perhaps that the learning from home that you're choosing to do is what the important thing is. And I know we're doing that as well. And the schools are putting out some wonderful stuff, and some of it people just won't be able to even read, and that's fine as well. Just the schools I'm talking to as well are just saying, look, we can pick up where they are when they come back, and what is it that you want to do now as a family is the most important. Okay, so every child learns differently. You are their first teacher, and let that be enough. And again, know what your values and beliefs are here. What's important to you at this time? And that's a real clear message for me right throughout this whole talk, really.
Yeah, and that's reflection piece as well. It's kind of looking back on this time and saying, okay, what do I want to be looking back on? Do I want to be looking back on a time which was kind of, challenging, but also calm and everyone was kind of in their groove? Or do I want to be looking back on a time where there was just lots of stress and worry and, there definitely is some, but do we want to be remembering this time as that? And if we don't, then what do we need to do now to ensure that we have that kind of vision that we're wanting for this time? It's kind of moving into the next area, what's important, but I think it does link to this. One other thing I wanted to briefly touch on was following the earthquakes in Christchurch, there was research done. I think it was probably high school students and their exams, because they thought that high school students would actually, their results would drop because they missed about 6-7 weeks of school through that time. But actually, their results improved, and they were higher than previous years. And that was really interesting for scientists and researchers. And I think we just need to remember it is a short time. Children are learning through everything that they're doing. We might not be able to exactly recognise or see that, but when a child is creating some kind of pulley system or pulling something along, they are learning so many different things. They're learning about strength, they're learning about gravity, they're learning about problem solving, and resilience. There's lots of different things that kind of come into whatever they're doing, and we need to just recognise that actually children will be okay. We just need to ensure that it's as calm an environment, to help with the mental health side of things. And if we can do that, all the teachers will do their job when they see them next, and they're experts. They know how to do this, and they're kind of saying, aren't they? I'm seeing it a lot in a lot of teacher groups. We will be able to catch your children up. The important thing right now is to help with their emotional, social development, and I totally agree. And we're going with that at our house. I don't think we've done any schoolwork yet. Yeah,
I think the one key thing to take out of that, from in a little bit of a summary, is that don't worry about the academic. It's okay. We can, that's just that clear line on that. That can be sorted along the way. If you can and you want to do that, fabulous. But actually what children need, and how we teach here, and I know Celia, you do as well, is we teach the holistic child. And that really is the focus right now. Everything, it can all be kept up. That's the key takeaway from me. Yeah.
Brilliant. Great summary. Awesome. Right. Last area.
Yeah.
We have talked through this. It kind of weaves in as, what is most important. And I think you used the line, our mahi now is with the children.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And that is exactly it. Connecting. It's that, like you said, the whole person. It's the connections. It's the social interactions. It's our support of their emotional well-being as well. And that's really important right now. Your thoughts, Kirsten?
Well, I just think that we have this moment in time now to look at your family and to look at your needs and what works for you. Like, we're actually being, I mean, I know this is a terrible time and I'm not downplaying anything at all. There's no disrespect to anyone in any situation. But this is unprecedented times. And I know other people are saying this as well. So use this time however you need to use this time. That's my real clear message, because that's what I'm doing. And I'm a real worker, like I like to be productive. I like to do those things. I have really struggled with that. But what I haven't struggled with is that I am putting time into my family and I'm putting time into my children, and I'm hearing that. So what's important is that I'm hearing those words back from my boys saying, like Zachy said last night, and by the way, my son has broke his foot yesterday. My other son, he did in the NCLs. And then my other son got stitches in his toe last Saturday. So it's not easy. We've had other, lots of other variables come in. Yeah. But Zachy even said to me last night with his moon boot on that this has been actually a really good time and that he's really enjoyed it. And that's because we've decided what's important. And you can decide that. It's just more conversations and more communications with bosses and whatever. It's like, and I know you can't in terms of bringing in finances and worry about that. I understand that because we're both stopped, both of our jobs we don't have right now. But what I can do at this point is I can put my family in a position where we can roll out of this. We might be a little bit fatter because we're eating lots of good food, but we're deciding on things that matter for us now, and the mahi that we do on that for connection to ourselves, and the mahi that we do connection to others, and most importantly as well, not most importantly, but as importantly as the mahi that we do to keep a healthy planet. So really thinking about that at the same time. This could be a time when everyone is using a whole lot of plastic, and see where you can make small changes in what you're doing with your priorities to kind of withhold those things. For me, that's for our family, again, going back to that values and beliefs that we keep talking about.
Fantastic. With that, I think one thing we really want to emphasize here is that no guilt. So we're obviously sharing this conversation. We're coming from our own experiences, but we also want to recognize that this is not the same experience that everyone else is going through. I think there are going to be some people who are, and I saw a really good analogy today, and it was talking about being in a storm. So there are some people who feel like it's a bit of a sprinkler. Other people feel like it's kind of a storm and they get a little bit worried and what's going to happen, how that storm's going to play out, and other people are going to feel like they're in a hurricane where it's just ripping the roof off and they are just so far, it's just right into those, the main hierarchy of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, finding shelter and food. And so we are all in a different place, and some of this conversation will be really relevant to some people and some won't be, and that's okay. I hope that you're able to kind of look through some of what we've talked about and gone, okay, well, how can I adapt this to my situation? What can I use from this? Because we are all in different situations, and I think it's hard to offer any advice that's ever going to fit everyone. So I really want to kind of emphasize that this is thinking about your own situation and surviving. And if you need to ignore everything we've said, fantastic, that's great.
Absolutely.
You've made that decision, and it's good to just make a decision about what you need and how you can manage and get through and cope. So
because the key is that everyone has their own story. So you're writing your own story. We're telling you a bit about ours, and I've got a roof over my head, I've got food, I've got the things I need. Some people don't have those things. So that, for me, I'm living in a privileged state, right?
Yes.
Everyone has their own story. So what does your story need? What is it that you need from this point? And take the bits that we've said that are good for you, take the bits that aren't. Exactly. I totally agree with what you're saying, Celia.
Yeah.
Is that, remember, these are all opinions. You're going to get heaps of different people's opinions, but now is the time to stand in your own power and stand on your own 2 feet and go, well, this is what's right for me. This isn't. And our story can be very different to yours, but there are some key things that you can take out of that. And that is to listen and to reflect and to dig deep into who you are and your family is and work out what you want moving forward. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think that's a really good sum up, because we're pretty much coming up to time now. And I think that's a really good sum up of the conversation. You know, reflection on this conversation would probably be where I would say, you know, after this, have a think, you know, what did stand out for me? What are a couple of practical things that we could do as a family to change or to help improve where things are, or help this juggle, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the juggle of our work and our children being at home while we try to work. So yeah, working through some of those things is going to be really helpful. Expectations, thinking about our flow of the day, our screen usage, schoolwork, and around that, just not being, you don't need to be worried if your children aren't interested. They will be okay, especially if they're school-aged children. If they're preschoolers, let them play. Just get them out there playing somehow. Good luck. Well, you know, we're not saying any of this is easy either. You know, I've definitely had some days which it doesn't go like this smooth little flow, and things that just absolutely doesn't go, and we've had some epic meltdowns, and it's, you know, it's exhausting. But we get through it, and we do the best that we can with what we have right now. And I think that's my parting message, is just do the best that you can with what you have now, and we will get through this. We're resilient, we will bounce back, and it will be over soon. Any final words, Kirsten, before we close up?
Yeah, remember to ask for help. So if you need help, ask from family, other people around you. Don't feel like you're isolated in your own bubble, even though you are. Remember, you can reach out through technology, and you can ask for help, and make sure that you do when you need those times, because that's when you can feel supported. So yeah, that's just another key thing, is just ask for help.
Brilliant. Hey, so that is pretty much time up for us. So I just want to thank everyone. I think we have had a few problems with our live, but that's okay. I have recorded this, and I will post this on our Facebook page, and send through to Kirsten as well. So this will be up probably on a YouTube thing by the end of this. And thank you so much, Kirsten, for coming in. I've really enjoyed our chat. I think it's been really valuable, and it's just good to have these conversations as well. So maybe even other people having conversations with someone else just about it, you know, back and forth, a bit of brainstorming could even be useful. So thanks so much for your time. So Kirsten Simmons from Talking Tree Hill, Celia Hogan from Little Kiwis Nature Play, we thank you very much, and hope you found this useful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Celia.
You're welcome.
Thank you for putting this together. It's always wonderful.
Cheers. And if you like it, make sure you comment and share. We would love the support. Thanks so much. See you. Bye.